Tell us, when did you start and how much revenue have you generated since starting?
So I started August 3rd, 2024. I did 69 through the end of the year, 75K counting the month of January.
What's going on? It's Austin here with the Owner Ops Podcast. I'm so unbelievably excited about this episode. If you are wanting to start your own local service-based business, then you got to listen up to this one. Tyler Mumford from Grind Time Stump Grinding has started a business. He was making $175K a year, working a tech sales job, and decided he wanted to get into entrepreneurship. If you are falling asleep at your corporate job because you're bored as heck, then this episode is for you. I love the strategy that he has implemented for how to go get his first jobs. I'm not going to spoil it for you. You got to stick around and listen. Let's jump into the episode. This episode is brought to you by Jobber. Jobber is the all-in-one software management solution specifically for home service and trade businesses. I remember when I was starting Bear Claw several years ago, I was wondering how the heck I was going to send estimates, keep track of a job schedule, send invoices, and collect payment. When I came across Jobber, I felt like I had found the Holy Grail. Jobber makes the back end of my business so efficient, and it saves me time as a business owner. So if you are in the early days of starting your home service or trade business, look no further than Jobber as your software management solution. And if you use our unique link, I get a commission from it. And Lord knows I still have debt to pay down on all this heavy equipment. If you've been enjoying the podcast, this is one way you can support us. Visit go.getjobber.com/OWNROPS. That is go.getjobber.com/OWNROPS. Tyler Mumford, welcome to the Owner Ops Podcast. Thank you so much for being on.
Dude, thanks for having me. I'm stoked to be here. I was just telling you that I was looking back in our Twitter DMs from about a year ago to the day pretty much. It was like January 30th of last year. And I was like, dude, this podcast is awesome. Thanks for what you're putting out. This is way before I ever had an idea about a stump grinding business. So yeah, I'm stoked to be here. It's going to be fun.
Well, I am unbelievably excited to see that you started your stump grinding business. Tell us, when did you start and how much revenue have you generated since starting?
Yeah, so I started August 3rd, 2024 was my first service. Showed up to a 4-stump job without having ever ran a stump grinder. So that was my first day. And then I've done, I've done about 75K counting the month of January. I did 69 through the end of the year, and then I did another 6.5 plus this in January.
So you started in August.
Yes, yeah, started in August. That was my first service.
79K, or did you say 75?
75. Yep.
Dude, that is awesome. That's incredible.
Appreciate it. Yeah, it's been a kind of a wild ride. I thought it was just going to be a side hustle. I was in tech at the time, and you talk about the story, but I wanted out of tech, and I thought it was just going to be a side hustle for some extra cash. And about a month in, I was like, oh, this is a little bit more than a side hustle here, and I need to take this pretty seriously.
So how do you even think about this? Like, where does the idea come from? Like, I'm going to start just a stump grinding business.
Yeah, great question. The first, I guess, seedling of the idea was in high school. I worked on a tree company, so I knew that people ground stumps, but I thought tree crews just ground stumps, and I'd never seen a big 50 horsepower plus machine that grinds. It was all the small stuff because I'm from Arizona. So that was kind of the first, I guess I knew it existed. And then recently it was July, I'm going to get the dates wrong. I have it somewhere, but it was like July 10th is where I heard the idea first. And it was on the Chris Corner podcast. You know Chris Corner on Twitter. He was talking about a B2B stump grinding business idea. And he didn't come up with the idea. He just runs a little tree crew in Texas. And so he was talking about it on his podcast. And I was like, wait, what is this? I know what stump grinding is. I know how to sell B2B because I was in the B2B SaaS space. I was like, let's dive a little bit deeper. And so from July 10th to August 3rd, that was 20 days. I basically had a business up and running and was getting a decent amount of leads in that time. So I worked quick. It just seemed like the right fit for me. I'd been looking to get out of tech for years, and that was kind of the thing that stuck out to me for some reason.
Okay, so starting the business, you've got the chicken and the egg problem. You need equipment, you need customers, you need marketing, you need jobs, you need revenue, you need cash flow. How do you think about all this stuff? And like, what was the timeline in which you layered all of that in?
Yeah. So the very first thing that I did was like, I wanted to know with how expensive some of this equipment is, and it's not nearly as expensive as some of the stuff you run, but a stump grinder's still expensive. A good one is, and so I wanted to see what the value proper, if there was actual need for this service. And so what I actually did, this is also from Chris Corner, so I want to give credit where it's due, but I actually scraped a list of tree companies in Boise, Idaho. I looked up at ChatGPT, what's a similar city to where I live in Provo, Utah, Salt Lake City area? What's a similar city in population, amount of trees, climate, all of that stuff to where I live, and it said Boise, Idaho. So I was like, all right, sweet. Let's pull a list from Boise, and I started cold texting Boise tree companies like, hey, I had an Arizona number at the time, so I was like, hey, I know a little bit about stump grinding. Are you in need of a good stump grinding sub? You can call that dishonest if you want. I get it. I was not planning on being up in Boise. Like I wasn't taking money from anyone. I was just kind of seeing what the industry was like and using it and doing that on leads that I wasn't going to burn for the future. And I got hits fast. Like dudes were like, dude, can you be out here in an hour? I got like 6 stumps for you. And I was like, oh crap. Like, I didn't know what to do with those phone calls, but I started talking pricing with those guys. And like, I figured out a price that was like, okay, that makes sense up there. I bet you that price makes sense down here. And so, yeah, I did the exact same thing to generate some leads. But before I started generating leads in my area, I went and built a relationship with a dealer. I am not machine oriented. I never even towed a trailer before this business, and never ran anything like a stump grinder. So I wanted a dealership relationship that they could help fix things if things went down. So found the main brands of stump grinder, built a dealership relationship. He told me, hey, you can rent this thing for a month, and then that rental, will roll into the price of the machine if you decide to buy it. And so the rental price was like $4,500. And I was like, all right, I know I can get some leads. I know I can get this machine for $4,500. The most I'd be in the hole is $4,500. I'm not going to lose $4,500 though. So like let's do it. And I found a trailer rental. I had to buy a truck. That was just an excuse to buy a truck because I wanted a truck. And yeah, that's kind of how I balanced those few things, and then started reaching out to get jobs. I've landed 2 jobs for one Saturday, August 3rd. I got picked up the grinder for a month rental on the Friday before, figured it out on that first job, and then the rest is history. That's the machine I own today. So
That is awesome. Now, what was the price of the truck that you bought, and what was the price of the trailer?
the truck was 35K. It was an F-150. If I could go back, I would have done a 3/4 ton diesel, but neither here nor there. That's the truck I'm here with now. So it's been awesome to me. And then the trailer was that I ended up buying. I had a trailer rental for a month just from Facebook Marketplace for like $700. This is super awesome, good deal. And then I bought a trailer at the end of that month. The trailer I used now is a 7x14 dump trailer. It's about 12K. And then my stump grinder was 55K. And that was by far my biggest. I didn't put any money down on the trailer or truck. Well, I traded my car in, that was paid off for the truck. But the stump grinder, you had to put 20% down. It was a business startup loan. I got absolutely shafted with the interest rate on that bad boy, but we're in it, and we're paying it off, so it's great.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And nothing like a high interest rate to just motivate you to just pay off that equipment, right?
Exactly, dude. Exactly. 100%. It was great. I was like, oh, you're telling me I figured out what I was doing in that first month, and then my payment ended up being like $990 a month. And I was like, oh, dude, 3 stump jobs. I'm cruising. Like I got this.
Isn't it crazy whenever you break it down from like what they're charging you to rent that machine,
Oh yeah.
and then you figure out what it actually costs when you just buy it and finance it?
Yeah. If you take my finances from that first rental month, that $4,500 that I spent, like that business does not look great. 4 or 5 times the price on what I pay month to month, to own the machine now. So I always tell that to people. It is a scary number. Don't get me wrong. If you don't have a lead or you don't know this thing's going to work, I don't recommend going and buying a new stump grinder. That's, a 990 payment. But I had already done some things that I was confident that I could land some jobs.
But that's like what, 12, like less than 12K a year, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I did, yeah. Anyways, I did 9K in my first month, 23K in my second month. So I was like, oh, or we can handle a stump grinding payment.
Yeah, for sure. Whenever you just break it down on the annual piece, it's like, all right, it's $12,000. Like I could figure that out some way, shape, or
Totally.
form, right? What I love
100%.
about what you did is you just like I hear of a lot of people, asking these questions like, hey, I want to start. How do I think about this? And it's like, man, you just go, like, just
Yep.
do it. And you've done that. And so that's why I've been so excited to host you on this podcast, because in that beginning phase, it's like, yeah, $4,500 rental. Who cares? You just figured it out. Like, you did it, figured it out, and then figured out a way to decrease that cost. And that's what I love watching about you. And I love watching your posts on there.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I appreciate it.
So you got 35K in truck, which you traded
Yes.
a personal vehicle for. I'm sure that you're just driving that personally too right now, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
100%.
And then trailer, did you pay cash for that or did you get a loan for that?
Loan on my personal credit. I have good credit, so I use that as a, I had the money for it. I didn't have. I'm not rolling in cash, but I could have paid for a trailer or whatever. But I was just like, let's keep some backup. I didn't know how the winter months were going to be, so that was the biggest thing. Starting in August, because the winter was coming. So I no money down on the trailer, and then 20% down on the stump grinder.
And then what's your payment on the trailer?
Trailer payments like $170. I think it's on a 5-year loan. I try to double my truck and trailer payment every month, just to try to pay that off a little faster.
Fantastic. That's
Yep.
awesome. Yeah, I think that's super smart too. Just like in a startup, you just don't know what the winter months are going to look like, especially where we live,
Yep.
Utah, Colorado, and you've proven to figure it out, which I want to get into.
Getting gritty in the winter, that's for sure. I'll tell you that. It's not quite as easy as the summer months, but
Well, cool. Well, I wanted to start with the finances because everybody's going to ask, like, how
Yep.
did you come up with 55,000, 12,000, 35,000
Yeah.
for a truck? It's like, well, if you have good credit, you just go get a loan for them and
100%.
focus on optimizing cash flows. You took the same exact strategy that I've taken. Identify the machine that you need and then go rent it for the first month. Make sure that you can get the jobs for it. And if you can't get the jobs for it, you're out that money, right? And you
Yep.
turn the machine back in and you just go back to your W-2 tech job. That was my
100%.
perspective as well. But like
Yep.
that also I'm sure it just jump started you to actually go figure out your marketing and your sales to figure out how to pay for that $4,500 rental. So how did you do that in first month going to get more jobs?
Yeah, so the first month was really, I don't want to give myself too much credit. I pretty much used one strategy, and I'll share it here. It was just cold texting. Cold texting is, I think, wonderful if you're selling to tree guys. So about 95% of my work is sub work. I want to hopefully bring that work, bring some more of my own leads coming into this year. But the beautiful thing about this sub work is I was able to get reviews the whole time. So anyways, the strategy was I used a software called outscraper.com, scrape tree leads from all the cities around Salt Lake through Park City, like anywhere that I was willing to drive to do a stump job. I scraped tree company leads from there. And the thing about tree companies, for the most part, their number on Google is usually their cell number, unless that you're getting towards like the bigger level of tree company where they have an office. But most of these tree guys are owner operated. They're gritty guys. So text works really well. So I would send one cold text to them. It was something along the lines of, "Hey, my name's Tyler. All I do is stump grinding in the Salt Lake County and Utah County area. Do you own a machine, or are you in need of a reliable sub?" And that was the first text with a picture of my business card. Kind of legitimized me a little bit. A business card had my website and my email on there. So they're like, "Oh, this guy actually does stump grinding, and he doesn't just do it on the weekends or whatever." And so yeah, I just ran that. I would text 40 guys, 40 tree companies ish on day one. On day two, I would send to the same list, just following up here with a little arrow. That works wonders, because some guys don't see the text from before. They see the just following up here. They would call me thinking I'm trying to give them business. They're like, "Hey, dude, what's up? Like, I just saw your following up here text." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm a stump grinder." And you could tell they're like, "Oh crap, shouldn't have called this guy." But now I have him on the line, and yeah, we're getting jobs from him. I'm like, "Dude, what do you have a stump grinder? Like, what's up?" And then just pleasant follow up every single time towards the end of these conversations that I'd have with guys. I'd share my pricing, share them how I work. And usually I was doing this like while out on jobs, right? And then I'd be like, "Hey, If it's not too much of a nuisance, would love to add you to my little list I have. I text, these tree guys at the beginning of every week just to see what you have for me. If you don't have anything for me, just ignore the text. But if you do have something, just let me know and we'll get you on the schedule and we'll get it done. And so every single week through the warm season, I've tapered this down in the winter just because most guys aren't doing too much on the tree side. But every week in the spring, summer, fall, I just say, hey, any stumps for me on Monday morning? And then we get texts coming in and we get people on the schedule and we get going.
This is so awesome. This episode is brought to you by Bear Claw Media. Bear Claw Media is a growth agency for service and trade-based business owners. If you want to grow your business and you offer a high-ticket service in local service or trades, there's a really good chance that we can help you grow with Facebook, Google Ads, and content creation for platforms like Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. If you're interested in growing your business, check out gobearclawmedia.com. Listeners, this is gold right here. This is gold if you're trying to start a business. Like you're hearing it from a B2B SaaS sales guy starting a local service business, and you've just implemented a sales process that works. So let's recap that for the listeners. Every Monday morning, you scrape the list with Outscraper.
And then I forgot to mention my cold text software is it used to be called Porterhouse. It's called Straight Text now, I think. The beautiful thing about this, if you have a Mac and an iPhone, is it sends the text through your phone and it sends them blue, not green like some of the other softwares, so that the contractor, if they have an iPhone, get the text in blue. Way higher response rate with blue text. Kind of funny that that's the case, but it's true.
Okay, what's this one called again?
This is called Porterhouse. It just changed to Straight Text, and I could give you all the links to these.
So we got Outscraper, which Brandon Dixon from Cleaner Streets mentioned that in his episode on cold outreach as well.
Really good episode on cold outreach, by the way. I actually took a few of those strategies, and I'm going to implement those this year. So go back to that one.
He's really good. Like,
yes,
he's just really good at what he does, and yeah, I would highly recommend listeners going back and listen to that if you want more cold outreach. But Outscraper,
Straight Text,
Porterhouse,
Porterhouse, Straight Text. Yep.
Okay. And then after that initial, like, are you able to manage campaigns in there?
Yeah, in the Straight Text, you're able. Yep, Straight Text. So I just have my one for cold outreach, which is like it's not even a campaign really. It's just a single cold text that will send to 40 people, right? You upload the list, backing up a few steps. Outscraper.com gives you like a CSV file that you can download, or a Excel file that you put into Google Sheets. In those Google Sheets, it's going to be a huge messy thing. I have a template of how I clean that up. I can send that over too for you if you want. But I clean up that data really nice in Google Sheets, and then I take 40 people a day, make a new little tab at the bottom, and then download that as a CSV file. I'm getting really technical here. CSV file, you upload the CSV file to Straight Text. So you do need a Straight Text premium account so that you can upload CSVs and text the CSV group there. The Straight Text, it's like $26 a month. It's the best investment I've ever made. And then you upload that list, you send it, you write a text that you want to send to all 40, contacts for that day, hit send. It actually takes over your Mac and it starts sending through the messaging app all of these texts to each person. I also have another sheet, as I mentioned, for every time I talk to someone that's interested in potentially working with me. I call it my drip contact list or drip text list, whatever you want to call it. And that's the one that I upload every single Monday. I just re-download it because I'm usually adding people to it. Re-download it, send a quick text, say any stumps for me today, and kind of go from there.
Incredible. This is such gold. Thank you so much for sharing this. Like, guys, this is coming from a B2B sales pro. Like, he's been in software at the highest level, leveraging technology, and he's applying it to local service business. So take a page out of his playbook here. Let's talk pricing. How do you price your stumps?
Yeah. And by the way, just real quick on that last part, my deliverable for you next time I'm coming on, if you're doing these stages of podcasts, I'll have a cold email. I'm working on that right now. I think cold email has a really good opportunity with bigger tree companies. And so anyways, that's going to be my next project that I'll have some good tactical stuff for you. How I price stumps, super straightforward. There's a starting price. There's tons of guys on the Facebook groups that will say you're dumb for doing this. Honestly, those guys in the Facebook groups are way too harsh on anyone trying to learn stump grinding. So I'll just put that disclaimer out there. But you price per inch of diameter of the stump. So usually you'll take the widest piece of diameter of the stump, where it goes into the ground on one side, where it goes into the ground on the other side. You times that by a price per inch. In Utah, I price $7 per inch. I will up that if I'm going directly to a customer. That's kind of my contractor pricing. I get a ton of people responding to my tweets or my posts on X, like, dude, you don't price enough, or whatever. They're playing the armchair quarterback, like you like to call it. But you have to have a good price for contractors, and the trade-off is that with one contractor, I can win. I mean, there's one contractor that has given me 15 grand so far. So yeah, I'll take $50 off, $50 less for a job to go get that other 15 grand from that contractor. Regardless, sorry, that's a tangent. $7 an inch to grind and go. I do upcharge for if you need all the mulch, hauled. That's why I have that dump trailer, but I try to charge almost double for that because it takes so much longer to haul, and it's so much more work because I don't have a mini skid yet. So I try to upcharge, and I don't do that too much. And then that's your starting price. If people want you to grind deeper than 8 to 12 inches, which is my standard, I have a higher price for that, for like concrete laying or a lot of roots around the stump, I'll upcharge, or if there's tight access to the backyard, I'll upcharge. But the starting price is that price per inch. And then my minimum is $150 to show. Anything that's under my minimum size, I'm doing that stump in 10 minutes. So $150 for 10 minutes of work feels like a pretty good trade.
Yeah, that's great. And everybody, like there will be some people who blast you. Why do you have to have a minimum? It's like, well, because I have a truck, I have a trailer,
Yeah,
I have to
exactly.
drive there, I have to mobilize back home. It's like it takes you arguably just almost as much time to do a 10-minute stump in regards for like your time blocked for the day, right?
Yep.
As it takes you to do a one that might take you half an hour when you add in mobilization, demobilization. You mentioned hauling the mulch. Are there any other opportunities for upsells on this service?
Yeah, so hauling the mulch is the first one. By the way, you can kind of sell the mulch back to people. Like tell the homeowner, like, dude, you're going to kind of want this mulch. It's how much does mulch cost you from the store? Yeah, you got flower beds over there. This is free. This is free and it's organic and it's great. So if you just want to be a grind and go guy, which I think makes a lot of sense on the side of planning your day. It just makes your day a little bit easier if you don't have to haul anything to the dump. That's an upsell is hauling the mulch. The second upsell that I haven't really dabbled in a ton is bringing in topsoil. So after you haul the mulch, bringing in topsoil, backfilling the hole, making sure it's all graded out, looks really nice. And then the last one would be if it's in a grassy area, put grass seed down. You could lay sod. There's a few things there that would kind of be upsells to the product. Everything that you add there just adds a little bit of a layer of complexity to your day. It's not something I'm turned off by. It's just something I'm trying to think through of like, what do I want to add? What's actually worth it for being there? But I would say those are the three things that most guys are doing when it comes to upsells.
And your trailer is a dump trailer, right?
Yes.
You could easily load up with topsoil.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Section
100%.
off, right? Put your, I guess you need your, sorry, I'm going to operational mind at this point.
No.
Because I love thinking through this stuff.
Yep. So
how would you do that?
Yeah.
I'm just curious. Would you put your stump grinder on the front of the trailer and then section off a section and then dump topsoil in the back?
Yeah.
How would
so
you topsoil would go off?
That's the hard part, right? So you could put your stump grinder on top of the topsoil, back it off, which I've done before. The mulch part, like if you think to kind of bring the conversation back to hauling the mulch or the wood chips, this is where it presents why you need to charge a lot for it, because the customer just thinks you're hauling it. But for me, I'm like, dude, I got 3 more jobs in this county. The dump's down in the county south of us. Like I have to go drive down there and figure out where to dump that day. So it just adds a lot of complexity there. I found some ways to really game it with some landscape yards that will take my mulch for free now, which is great because I have, a few in every city that I just pull up to, and you don't even talk to anyone. I just pull up to the big pile of mulch that they have and dump my stuff. But yeah, that's been the big learning lesson of you can always add money to a job, but sometimes adding money to that job will actually lose you money for the rest of the day because you're not being smart on your route. But yeah, with topsoil, I don't think you need like a dump trailer full of topsoil ever for the size of stumps that you were working with here, usually. Because what you'll do is you'll take the wood chips out down to like a foot below grade, and then you'll just be adding a foot of topsoil over like the wood chips, really, is what you do. So it's not a ton. You could actually just do bags of topsoil is probably the easiest. I've done that before in my truck, in my truck bed. And that's a pretty good way to do it. I usually don't need to fill the whole trailer.
Gosh, I want to go to operational questions, so I'm just going to follow it. But like, what kind of
Yeah.
trees? What kind of trees are you grinding out there?
Yeah. We pretty much have everything. Not, I don't want to say everything, and I'm not a tree expert. So disclaimer: if there's like arborists in this listening to this, please do not get in my DMs and just like destroy me, because I half the time I don't know what I'm grinding. But we have most trees here in
It's a
Utah.
tree, and I grind stumps.
Dude, it's a stump. Like, I'm getting the stump out for you. You know what I mean? No, I do a lot of pine, a lot of ash, a lot of maple. We don't have oak out here. Guys down in Florida, I believe, and like down south will like make huge money on oak stuff, because oak is really hard to grind. So they'll charge even more for oak grinding, but we don't really have that out here. So it's mainly, those are the three that I feel like I run into the most. And then there's tons, like I'll do like 8 fruit trees out of their little vineyard in the back and replanting. So they want to plant back in the same hole. So I'll just do like 8 fruit stumps, and those are super easy. There's a lot of different types of jobs.
It's probably not super interesting stuff for the podcast, but the reason I'm going down that is like because we grind and chip a lot of pine. And
Yeah,
so the
pine's the
pine is
worst to
heavily
grind.
it's heavily acidic, and so it does affect like the soil composition. And I think this is a little too nerdy for this podcast, so I'm
No,
gonna
I'm here for
switch.
it, but yeah.
I'm gonna switch topics. But my head was going to the reason I was asking that is like, man, if could you grind some of that stuff and then mix it with some topsoil bags and just put it back in place to let it decompose over time? I don't know the answer to that question. Maybe something worth looking into.
From what I've heard too, if you put topsoil like over it, like if you're just bringing it back to like just below grade, like, and you're putting topsoil over the top, like this is a lot of organic matter from what I understand. So it is good for like the underlying soil. It just doesn't look great on the top, right? You want the top looking clean topsoil, or, clean, like if you're in a mulch bed, a black mulch bed at a really nice, house, and they have like really clean looking dark mulch, it just doesn't blend in the same. So it's just making sure, for those customers that it looks good.
For sure.
Striker Digital specializes in SEO services specifically for local service businesses. Bodie and Andy, the 2 co-founders, have helped me get Bear Claw Land Services to the #1 search result on Google inside my state for my specific search term. If you want to learn more, visit strikerdigital.com. That's STRYKER-digital.com.
Okay. Average ticket size.
Yeah, average ticket is, I just did this morning. It was $300. It was right around 300. I think it might have been like 290, was average.
And is that on like doing, and sorry for my incompetence here, is that one stump? Is that like grinding multiple stumps? You're doing $7 per inch, if I remember correctly from what you said.
Correct.
Like,
Yeah.
What's a typical job look like, and how many stumps?
Typical job probably is like a 1 stump job. I would say like not a majority, but I'd say a good half to 60% of my work is just 1 stump jobs. You're showing up, if it's big, if it's small, whatever. If it's small, it's that $150 job minimum. Bigger, like I've had, I think my biggest stump was 8 feet across. So, I mean, that's pretty big. And that one was $1,200 for 1 stump. So, right, like it runs the gamut there, but a lot of it is just 1 stump that a tree crew is removing and I'm coming in. Now, I've done a 20 stump job for a city. That was a $4,500 day, which was awesome. That's my biggest day yet. And then, I've done another couple, like 3 to 4 grand days for tree companies that are taking out a lot at a time. So you just have to be ready for anything. But I would say my sweet spot is anywhere from like 1 to 4 stumps at a place. And the ticket that I'm saying is what the contractor's paying me for. So on average, I'm getting paid about $300 average, and that's including that $4,500 city job, and that's including my $150 job minimums. It all evens out to about $300.
Okay, I gotcha. How long does let's say you have to do 3 or 4 12-inch stumps. Is that
3 or 4 12-inch stumps, I'm out of there in a half hour. The grinder's probably running for 20 minutes and then try to get set up and take down as fast as possible. And that right there, right, is, 48 inches times 7. So what are we working with? Like, that's like 350, and you're in and out of there.
Yeah.
And you're in and out of there.
336.
Yeah, exactly. You're in and out of there for a half hour. And in most days, like in the summer, it's like a hybrid between, like, it's bigger ticket than lawn care, right? So I'm willing to drive to really an hour from my house. I'm willing to do a stump there, because what I'll do is in Salt Lake County, I live in Utah County. So in Utah County, I'll have like 3 days in Utah County, 2 days in Salt Lake County in a week. And usually stumps aren't super time sensitive, so I can kind of, game it a little bit on my routes. But it's really a route based thing. So like most days you're not making all your money from one job. It's showing up, doing that 12-inch stump job, and that's job 1 of like 8, right? And you can put a really good day together if you're smart with your routes, and you're getting, you're pricing things well.
Now, what is your goal with this? Is it to just, like, how long are you going to be owner operating, doing 7-8 jobs a day?
It's a good question. So right now, like, I'm super biased towards as much cash as I can stack in the bank. I was listening to your podcast that you just released with the septic guy, that did 2.3 with like 3 guys, which was insane, by the way, in 6 months. That's the most insane podcast I think I've ever listened to.
Sorry to cut you off, but his name's Brock Peel. I'm actually doing another episode with him after this, so you should stay on.
Nice.
After we end up in here, and I'll introduce you to him. He's incredible. But
dude, heck yes, would love to meet him. But yeah, just listen to that episode, and what stuck out to me, and I think the beauty of the owner operator model in the early days, like, if you want to build something bigger, like, owner operating is probably not the most ideal for like the biggest things in the world. But in the early days, it allows you to stack cash, know what you do really, really well, know what works, know what doesn't, because you're out on the job actually feeling it when you underprice something, when you overprice something, when you feel like, oh, this was really worth my time and this isn't. If I just had an employee doing it for me, I wouldn't feel any of those things strongly day to day, because he's the one feeling it in the backyard, cussing me out under his breath, and I would be sitting in an office somewhere. But when I'm out there, dude, I'm like, dude, this was not worth $100 or whatever, And so it allows you to like really shape your business model while stacking cash, like, in a great way. My margins are super high. Everything I make just goes back into the bank account, and it allows me to have a lot of dry powder for the future. So my goal, though, is I'm hoping to the ideal would be have enough consistent business early in the spring that I'm like, all right, I need to go get another truck, trailer, and stump grinder, and then run me and another guy. I think that would be a super profitable model, just with 2 trucks running. After that, you tell me. I don't know what the market is for like a huge stump grinding company in Utah. I don't know that. I know I have competitors. I know there's a lot of tree companies. I feel like there's a lot of room to run here. But I'm just, dude, if I'm stacking cash, making a lot of profit, and really enjoying my day to day, like, it's not a bad life. And I can figure out, do I want to stay with stump grinding, or do I want to ditch stump grinding and go, grade roads or clear land, or, I don't know. There's a lot of options there that I see myself potentially liking in the future, but I don't have to rush it. And so it's not a great answer on like what specifically is my goal, but I'm just trying to build as much need for the service through the sub model as possible, and then hopefully build into 2-3 grinders running at a time.
I love it, man. I love the mindset. It's so awesome, just to see you putting it into action. What was the driving force behind leaving? I think I saw on your tweet you were making like $175K at a W2 tech, B2B tech job. And it's like, what's the driving force from that? There's got to be something more than the money. So I'm interested to hear, like, was there an aspect that you wanted to get outside?
Yeah, for sure. So one disclaimer, it's hard to write this into a tweet because you want it to sound good and snappy, but that was 175K is what I make when I hit my quotas. And I was a good B2B seller, so I was usually hitting quota, but like my base salary was half of that, right? And so the other half comes in commission. So that's the first thing is one, I definitely feel like even with a simple business like stump grinding, I can go make more consistently from stump grinding than I could consistently from sales, because sales kind of can go up and down depending on the product you're selling. There's a lot of things that are out of your control when you're at a big tech company on like what they're deciding to do when it comes to competition and pricing and commission structures and some of those things. And so really, it's been a slow push to doing my own thing since I started earning money, I guess. In college, I did door-to-door sales. So like the pest control guy that you've interviewed, I was a pest control rep for 2 years, 2 summers. I knew I liked sales from that. I definitely wanted out of the door-to-door industry. So I got into tech, and from there started, building what I was able to make in tech. I just really did not like that. I would have, so one Q2, I like killed it. I think I did like 300% of my goal, and it was awesome. Huge commission check, like just great. And then you show up first day at Q3, and they're like, "Oh, dude, great job last quarter, but you're gonna have smaller room to work. The whole state of California, now you're gonna have half the state of California, and we're actually gonna just bump it down what we're paying you per deal a little bit, and also and all that." And I was like, I just have no control over my future here. It's great to earn some checks, but I wanted that control that I have day to day in, man, if I'm going to make money, it's because of me. And if I'm going to make a lot of money, it's because of me. And no one can come tomorrow and say, dude, you have to price your stumps differently. Like that's up to me completely. And so outside of the money aspect, money drives us all a little bit, I think. But yeah, I was making good money there. So it's not a complete money decision. It's a enjoyment and control over my life decision that's been like, I thought I was going to like it. I can't even tell you how much I have appreciated my life since I left my W-2. Like my wife comments every day. She's like, "You're just like happy today." And I'm like, yeah, I am. I'm stoked to be here. I'm stoked to be alive, Um, that's kind of that's the why there.
Okay, why do you think that because my wife has done the same thing. Like since I started my business, she's like, dude, you are like, you've completely changed.
Yep.
Like energy all the time. Like I still get excited whenever we close a new job, no matter how big or how small. I love when I'm out there in the field with the guys and like we complete a job and then you send the invoice and it's like, yes. Like what is it about? Why did you change, or what changed?
I really think a lot of it comes to that feeling of control and dictating like your life and like what you want to do. Like I choose to work 12 hours in a day, right? Like that's a complete choice now. Whereas before it felt like you were forced to work 8 when I could have done my job working 5 or 6, right? There was someone telling you had to do something different, even though I was a hard worker. Like I've always been a hard worker. But for me, I wanted to get my day job done in 5 and 6 so I could go work harder in the gym or on a side hustle, right? Instead of now it's all focused on one thing, which I think is exhilarating. But yeah, I'm not quite sure the answer to that, because like a lot of my days are like hard physical labor. I remember one of the first days I was out doing just stump grinding, and it was a long summer day. We had a lot of daylight. I think I was out working for 12 or 13 hours that day. I mean, I made a good amount of money. Came home like covered in mulch, covered in dirt, covered just dusty, and my wife thought I was just like going to be like, low energy that night or whatever. Like I was pumped to be alive, and I still feel the same way today. So I'm not exactly sure why that is. And then I will say too, the friends all the time. I have tons of friends that are still in tech, and I talk to them all the time about what I do because they're interested. And they're just, I don't know. Some of it I feel like is a little bit of DNA wiring, because I tell them what I do day to day, and they're like, "You do what?" Like, you know what I mean? They're like, "That sounds miserable," and I'm like, "What? What are you talking about? It's awesome, dude. Like, I love it." So I think part of it is wiring as a human being, and then other part is just having that control.
Did you do any sort of manual labor growing up?
Yeah, so I was on a tree crew in high school. Yeah, landscaping tree crew. So that's kind of where and then I did that a little bit in college as well. And then I was an athlete, so I, played football and lacrosse in high school, I played lacrosse in college. There is something connected there. I don't necessarily feel like I'm working hard until I start sweating. I think that's from athletics and a little bit of blue collar labor.
Mm-hmm.
So like I could work a whole day in my office and I'm like, dude, I didn't really work that hard today, you know? But if I'm out grinding, I'm like, hell yeah, dude, I'm getting after it today. I don't know why I think that's just wired into me, but
No, it's a real thing. Like I feel the exact same way.
Yeah.
Earning $1 when you're sweating is so much different than like Jobber just sponsored the podcast, right? And it's like,
Yeah.
that's
Yep.
it's cool and it's great to have like recurring revenue coming in.
Yeah.
But and I'm very appreciative of it. So like Jobber, if you're listening to this, like, yes, I'm very appreciative of it. But that does not feel the same as like whenever we just go fire up the chainsaw and rip some trees and
Yeah, dude.
and
100%.
we're just covered in sweat and dirt, and it's like, man, you feel like you got something done that day.
100%. I don't know if it's for everyone, but I do think a lot of people, even people that haven't experienced it before, I do think they would like it more than they think they would if they got out and did it. You know, with me, it's just fun. I think it's fun.
I 100% agree that it's fun. Where'd you play lacrosse at?
I played at BYU, Brigham Young University is where I went to school out here. So I don't talk
Sweet.
about this much on X at all, but I'm the defensive coordinator for BYU men's lacrosse as well. So, yeah, so I kind of balance a few different things going now. It's a very unique thing because it's considered like a extramural or like a club sport, like rugby and lacrosse are like that across a lot of the West Coast and the Southeast. So I'm talking too much about this, but I did this last year while I was in my tech job. We start practice at usually 5:15 a.m. and we're out by 8 a.m. So it actually works pretty well with my day most days. And then we have trips coming up, but most of the trips will be done before it starts getting warmer here. So that's something I balance in my free time, and I have a lot of fun doing it. So anyways, I don't talk about that a ton, but
That's awesome. What years did you go to school, BYU?
I graduated in 21. So I went, technically my first year of school was 2014. I went on an LDS mission to Fiji, lived in Fiji for 2 years. So there's a lot of stories there. And then came home and I had I think I technically was in school for 5 years total, counting 2014. So I graduated in 21.
Very cool. One of my friends who I played safety with at CSU, he transferred out to BYU and he played out there. So I didn't know if there's overlap, but he was finishing up 2014.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I was a true freshman then. Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't know you played at CSU. That's incredible.
Yeah, and then he got to play at BYU. Like, dude, like you guys always have, like, I always hated playing BYU because it's
our student section's awesome.
Student section is awesome, but it's just like, I don't know, it just like y'all were just the team that was like full of 11 guys that all work hard and they're all on the same page at the whole time. Yeah. And they play from the start of the whistle till the whistle blows like every single time. And yeah, it's pretty impressive like how consistent BYU is. Yeah. So it's an awesome university. I've really enjoyed it. So I actually live like I can walk there in 5 minutes. So I usually walk there in the morning, coach practice, walk back home, and then it's like, all right, let's put on the Carhartt sweatshirt and let's rip today. Nice.
Yeah, that's the day. So
if you haven't signed up for the weekly newsletter yet, go to ownerops.com/newsletter. That's OWNROPS.com/newsletter. We summarize all of the learning lessons from the interviews with the guests on the podcast, and we distill those into short, actionable tips, tricks, tactics, and strategies that you can use to grow your own local service business. Sign up for the newsletter at ownerops.com. That's OWNROPS.com.
For our listeners, what's the name of your business?
Grind Time Stump Grinding is the name.
Grind Time. I love it.
Yeah, Grind Time's one word, Stump Grinding. To check my reviews, I think I got like 55-star reviews now, so we're cruising. I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but
that's awesome.
The coolest thing is I have not, outside of a little bit of SEO. So it's a friend that runs a little SEO company. I pay him like $400 a month. I think he gives me a deal on it, but he hosts my website and runs my SEO. Outside of that, I have not spent $1 in marketing. Everything's been direct sales. So, and then referrals now. So that's kind of how I've built my business. I'm looking into some more marketing stuff that I could do in the future, but it's cool because I haven't really spent much in marketing, been direct selling. And then what the tree guy doesn't No, and it doesn't hurt anyone, but the customer always sees me pull up in my truck and trailer that's branded Grind Time Stump Grinding, and that's not the tree removal company's branding. They're like, well, what's this all about? And I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm a sub. I know these guys well. I always drop their name and say like I work with them all the time. And by the end of the service, they don't care who's grinding their stump. But the cool thing is, I'm knocking on the door, telling them I'm with this tree service. By the end of it, I can ask them for a review, and I didn't even pay for the marketing to get that review. So I that might be, I don't
Oh,
know.
man.
So it's pretty sweet. Kind of gave the review system there a little bit.
That is awesome. Yeah, you're at 48 reviews. This is incredible. You started in August. So,
Yeah,
I don't know, you probably heard Bodie talk about it. Like, Bodie runs all of our
yeah,
SEO.
totally.
But, like, dude, reviews are so important, and you are crushing it at it. So if anybody's listening to this and you're starting, like, just, I don't know, go back and listen to this episode like 3 times, because Tyler's literally has the playbook for this. If you want to start a business as an owner operator, dude,
Yep.
I'm so excited to have been able to host you on this podcast. Like, it makes me so happy to see other people who kind of see the world in a similar way that I do. It's like, yes, like starting a business is cool, but like those little things, like earning $1 from actually sweating and
Yep.
getting dirty in the field, like that it just feels good. And some people feel good about it. Other people are like, man, that's stupid. Like, why would you go shovel snow?
For each their own. Real quick on that, I know we're wrapping up here. I on the playbook side of things, I have struggled a little bit since I've started my X account and my LinkedIn. I have a decent LinkedIn following from when I was in tech, and I post about this stuff a decent amount. And I get asked all the time in DMs. I'm sure you do too. Just like, how did you do it? Like, what are you doing? And at first I was like, oh, this is awesome. I'll hop on a phone call with every single person. And then after 1 week of like a lot of phone calls, I was like, dude, I don't think I got one thing done this week to help build my business. So I sat down for 2 weeks and I spent about 100 hours. These were night hours, so I could still have my days. And I put together everything in a playbook. I am not trying to be a course guy at all. I'm more trying to just focus on my business. So anyone that DMs me, I will answer any question that you DM me with, and then I will send you the link to this little playbook. You can buy it. It's like, I priced it at like a no-brainer price. I think it's at like $149 or something. And I'm sorry, I'm not just trying to plug myself, but it covers this outscraper thing. It covers everything I did to land jobs, how I got my truck, trailer, and stump grinder. Covers every brand of stump grinder, every machine. It's like 85 pages. It's pretty long. So I didn't gatekeep any of it, but the only thing that I don't do is post about it publicly, because I don't want anyone in Utah having it. So if you DM me, you say, hey, I'm from Virginia, wherever, dude, like I'll get you the link and you can buy it from me, and then you can ask me questions later if something's not clear. So it helps save my time, because I'm dead focused on building this thing as big as I can.
Yeah, for sure. And then the reality, like, dude, there's nothing wrong with that. I think like I've seen a lot of people, kind of bash the whole.
Yeah.
I do want to address this right now, because like I've seen some of
Let's do
it
it.
going on. It's
Yeah.
like, you're obviously online. You've started your business. You've created a little playbook that you're charging $149 for, which, if you are considering starting a stump grinding business, like Tyler has already proven that this model works. So if you're considering starting, like, I had this conversation with Logan. He owns a cleaning business, and he sat down with Johnny Robinson. He's like the squeegee god on Twitter or whatever.
Yep.
He sells a coaching program on it, and Logan's like, I just paid for the coaching program, and like since I did that, my business has radically changed. And I'm a big fan. I always have been. I paid Les O'Hara. He's the contractor coach. I charges like 15 grand, but like from that $15,000 investment, like I will take those learning lessons from somebody who has built and sold 3 contracting businesses. And like, I don't know, a lot of people bash like courses right now, or, people like trying to become online gurus. I don't think you're trying to become a guru. I genuinely think you're trying to build a stump grinding business, and then you're an entrepreneur, so you're like, well, I have something that's valuable that other people have told me that they want, so why not monetize it? Because guess what? Your equipment is expensive, your truck is expensive, your trailer is expensive, my equipment's expensive, my truck, my trailer is expensive to offer this service. And the faster you can pay that equipment down, the better off you're going to be to deliver 5-star service. So I personally have no problem charging money online for services. I'm doing sponsorships, I'm running ads for people.
You should be. Yeah.
Every single dollar that I get, I am personally just reinvesting back in my business. Why? Because that allows me to run a better business faster, quicker, and deliver more 5-star service. So I had to address that because I do see people knocking it online, and I don't think anything you're doing is wrong about that. So charge the crap out of $149 services and then pay that freaking stump grinder off.
Yeah, dude, 100%. That's exactly how I feel. Like I two things on that. You said that the equipment's expensive. The equipment is expensive, but what's more expensive that people don't quite get, and it's totally fine. Like I think I made this mistake a ton before I ever ran a business as well, where I was asking guys for time, and I was like, oh, this guy's just going to want to talk about what he does for business, which might be true a little bit, but also like an hour in the middle of my day, like I usually make about $200 to $300 an hour grinding. You know what I mean? So like an hour talking to someone in the middle of my day is actually $200 to $300 that I'm losing by not grinding stumps. And it sounds funny, but I was just like, I cannot keep doing that. So that's kind of the first piece. And then the second piece is like I spent a ton of money on courses. I've been entrepreneurially interested for years, and I've spent money on different courses that I never did anything with, never panned out, wasn't the right idea for me. But a beautiful thing about paying a small chunk of money up front is you can read real quick from someone in the trenches doing that thing, and you can know pretty quickly whether this is something you want to pursue, because $149 or whatever anyone charges for these things is way cheaper than being stuck with a 60 grand stump grinder and be like, oh, I made the wrong decision, or whatever. So I just think trading of knowledge is very valuable. I do think it's a little weird if someone's just doing courses and not actually running the business of the course that they're selling. That is a different thing. But if someone's running the business and wants to protect their time with, some knowledge that they're putting out there, which is what I'm doing, like, don't get it twisted. I'm out just running a stump grinding company, but I had 2 down weeks in January that I could put something together that's good and that transfers the knowledge I've shared with you today. I think it's a win-win for all parties. So yeah, I couldn't agree more with what you're saying.
Absolutely. Like you hit the nail on the head. Of course, like, anybody out there who's creating courses on things that they haven't done or don't have the credibility.
Totally. Yeah.
Yes. And I should have addressed that, but what you're doing, it's like, hey man, you pioneered the playbook. There is no reason that you shouldn't be able to sell that in a way that you don't have to trade your time for money. So if you are listening to this and deciding or considering to start a stump grinding business, where can people find that?
Yeah. So it's hosted, actually just DM me. So go to X, Tyler Mumford the Stump Guy, or you can find me on LinkedIn at Tyler Mumford. I also have an Instagram if you want to find my personal Instagram as well, and DM me. I'll send the link straight to you. Like I said, I don't really put it out there. I don't have too much of a scarcity mindset, but I just don't want the few competitors in Utah knowing about this playbook or knowing the exact things that I do. So I just I'll DM with you and see where you live, and then I'll shoot you over the link to the playbook, and you can grab it and yeah, I'll help you along the path. I already have actually a few guys that have landed a few jobs from it. So that's been pretty sick actually, in the winter months. So I'm fired up on that.
That's awesome. And it's smart. Yep. This is how you know Tyler is seriously legit about building his business, because he's strategically not sending it to anybody who could be a competitor. And it's part of it whenever you're putting a lot of time and effort and energy into building this business. It is localized, right? And so the last thing you want is, like, it's way better if you just don't have competitors. So
100%.
I'm with you on that.
Dude, my competitors, I want to crush them. Like, I've met most of them. They're great guys, but I want to crush them every single day. So like, I'm not trying to share anything. I mean, they could go listen to this podcast and find, some of the things that I'm doing. So it's not like too hidden, but I try to at least be, somewhat smart about what I'm putting out there to guys in my market. Yeah, for sure.
And it's no different than football and lacrosse, right? Like, you can respect that person, but like, once 100%. We step on the field, it's go time. And like, 100%. I hate losing.
100%, dude. I'm exactly right. I have my playbook and I have my scout on you, and I know what you do well and don't do well. And I think I'm going to be able to, find some cracks in that armor and win at the end of the day. I treat it the exact same way. I couldn't agree more.
Awesome, man. Well, this episode has given me so much energy. I want to have you back on 6 months, 12 months down the line, see how your business is doing. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with the listeners?
No, I think this is doable. I think this business idea and a ton of other business ideas are very doable. I guess the one thing I do want to share is that if you are in that place of like having cold feet, like that does not have to be forever. I was like very interested in doing something on my own for like 3 years. And during that 3 years, I thought I wanted to buy a business. I thought I wanted to start with a service franchise. I thought I wanted to do this, X, Y, Z. And I got cold feet on like 10 ideas before I ever started stump grinding. So you're not a failure if you have some cold feet. Sometimes cold feet or a gut feeling is good because it keeps you away from something that you shouldn't have pursued, right? So I think we talk all the time about the business idea that actually works or the, final iteration of who that person is. But there's a lot that has led me to this point. I'm not even a success yet, but I've at least gotten out of the W-2. And so don't beat yourself up if you're still trying to figure that out. You can find it, and it takes time, but you can succeed in whatever you want to do.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, thanks again for being on another episode of the Owner Ops Podcast. Listeners, Tyler Mumford with Grind Time Stump Grinding. Listeners, thanks again for listening. Just like Tyler's grabbed 48 5-star Google reviews, the podcast reviews are super important as well. So if you do enjoy this type of content, if you have gained some insightful tips, we would sure appreciate if you just take 30 seconds and leave us a quick 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. And then if you're listening to this on YouTube, we'd appreciate a like and subscribe. You'll get the notifications whenever we release these episodes on Fridays. And then finally, what we've been doing recently is summarizing these episodes with the key learning points and sending that in a weekly newsletter on Saturday mornings. So if you are not signed up for that yet, go do so on the new Owner Ops website. We just launched a new one, ownrops.com/newsletter. You can also click the link in the header to get to that page. We're going to wrap this one up. And Tyler, thanks again for being on. Listeners, don't forget, work hard, do your best, never settle for less. See you in the next one.